internet. Let me just introduce our panel to you. We have with us Mr. Digvijay Singh, the Minister of State for External Affairs for India. We have Abhishek Singhvi, the spokesperson of the Congress Party. Mr. Sanjay Nirupam of the Shiv Sena, one of that party's most vociferous members, and that's actually saying something, Mr. Nirupam. And we have Seema Mustafa, the political editor of the Asian Age. I'd like to thank all of you so much for joining us on this program. And of course, we have a huge audience with us waiting to ask questions. So let's start off with Sheetal Agarwal, who is an advocate from the Supreme Court in the center, third row from the top. Carry on.
My question is, if India doesn't want any international interference on Kashmir issue, then why shouldn't the government proceed to talk to Pakistan without insisting much on the unrealistic preconditions?
Well, essentially, he's saying that if India's stance is basically that it must be bilateral talks with Pakistan, there should be no international intervention, then surely you have to proceed with those bilateral talks. Otherwise, in a sense, it's a contradiction.
Well, as he has correctly said, we are prepared to talk to Pakistan, and we have attempted twice for that. One was in Lahore, another was in Agra. And both the time we failed in the sense that the result has not come which was expected. This time what we are saying that we are again prepared to talk to Pakistan, as Prime Minister Bajpayee had spoken in his press conference and in Parliament or in the public meeting of the Srinagar, that I am prepared to talk to Pakistan. And the only request which he has made that this talk should not fail, and that's why he has suggested that let there be some stoppage of this cross-border terrorism. And the moment you do it, we will send our one official to Pakistan where a structured agenda can be prepared. So there is no question of any condition. It is just a suggestion, and this suggestion will help for the talk.
But if you are saying that only after you stop cross-border terrorism will the talks proceed, then isn't that a condition? That is a precondition, isn't it?
Well, it is not a precondition. It is just a suggestion, and suggestion which will smoothen the talk between India and Pakistan, because after Lahore we had faced Kargil. After Agra we had faced attacks on Parliament and on the Assembly of Jammu and Kashmir. That's why we are cautious enough this time to say and suggest that let there be a conducive atmosphere for talk, and for that it is necessary that the cross-border terrorism should be stopped from Pakistan.
Mr. Singhvi, is that not a precondition?
Well, it appears it was a precondition for the last many months, and I think I substantially agree with the questioner. You see, if it is likely or possible or in the immediate foreseeable future it will happen that by not talking to Pakistan we will diminish cross-border terrorism, then I'd go to the extent of supporting the government on that. But the fact of the matter is that not talking never solves problems. It does not decrease cross-border terrorism. It makes you sulk, and in diplomacy, if there are no channels of communication, it only complicates matters. Now, in a sense, and this is what the questioner has said, you have had de facto internationalization of the Indo-Pak problem, because when you are not talking for the last several months, you are having what might be called track 2 diplomacy, track 3 diplomacy, track 4 diplomacy, informal diplomacy, quiet telephone conversations via USA. So in a sense, you may well have actually internationalized it, which is contrary to India's stated policy. So I think we can be dignified, we can be restrained, we can be strong while we talk. We can be cautious while we talk. We can be very careful while we talk. But not to talk at all per se doesn't make sense to me.
Mr. Nirupam?
I don't think there is any use of talking to Pakistan right now. Because just 3 months back, we forced Pakistan to recall the first secretary of Pakistan High Commission in India. What was the charge? That gentleman was bribing or giving money or funding the Hurriyat leaders. What happened in last 3 months? What change has taken place? I don't find any change. As Mr. Digvijay Singh has said that this is not a precondition, but Pakistan should stop cross-border terrorism. General Musharraf has already said publicly that we are not involved in the cross-border terrorism. Then how can you ask anybody to stop it? We don't have any type of contact with Pakistan, no trade links, no cultural exchange. So if you want to talk to Pakistan, then it should be gradual. Why only PM level talk immediately? We have junior secretary, junior officers. You can have a talk. You can.
So you have no objections to talking to Pakistan, but you're saying it should slowly be built up. Is that what you're
slowly
saying?
be built up means that means then there will be a structured talk. Then there will be a roadmap of dialogue. There is no roadmap. What was the use of inviting Pervez Musharraf to Agra? And what was the purpose of going our Prime Minister to Lahore? Everything has failed.
But I'm just trying to understand that, so you're not also completely saying that the line which was taken, which is being taken by the government for quite some time, that there will be absolutely no talks with Pakistan until cross-border terrorism ends. Even you seem to be saying that that's not necessarily correct, we should have lower level talks.
See, finally Pakistan is our neighbor country. You cannot just deny talking to or having dialogue forever with your neighbor. But what you can do at the most, you can ask Pakistan to change the attitude towards Pakistan, especially the hawkish attitude approach towards India. That if that approach is not changed, then there is no use of talking to Pakistan. This much I would like to say.
All right. Seema?
No, it's interesting to note what Mr. Nirupam is saying, because the Shiv Sena had a very, very strong position about not talking to Pakistan. Now, I think that there is no alternative. You have to talk to your neighbors, whether it be Pakistan or Bangladesh, if you want peace in the region. And particularly with the kind of violence we have been seeing for a long time, you have to sit across the negotiating table and talk. But unfortunately, we are not doing it from a position of consistency. That alone could have given us strength. We placed our troops on the border for a year at considerable, there was this very heavy sensitivity in the army. We withdrew, we almost severed diplomatic relations. We've stopped all people-to-people links. We are not even giving visas to people to, move freely across the thing. And then suddenly we are told that terrorism is, if it is sort of contained, and it is being contained, we are moving towards stop. So anybody will be forgiven for thinking that it is largely to do because of American pressure.
If anything, in the last couple of weeks, terrorism has, if anything, gone up, because there have been a number of incidents.
Just last month, there was a big massacre of Kashmiri Pandits, 11 women, 2-3 children. They were killed in Nandi Marg. So there is no change. What my party has a view, it's very simple, very clear, that as long as Pakistan is not going to change the approach towards India, there is no use of
I think
talking.
there is a change. I think the pressure from the Americans is extremely heavy now. I think the Prime Minister recognized it when he said earlier that let Iraq, there's a lesson for all of us in Iraq.
That only can be spoken, or that only a political editor can speak. He can't speak like that.
All right. Mr. Digvijay Singh, is India now talking to Pakistan because of pressure from the Americans?
Not at all. I am surprised when anybody in this country particularly, if they or he or she says that we are under pressure of Pakistan, under pressure of America, and then we talk and then we act in our foreign policy. I am surprised. Did our nuclear explosion was under pressure of Pakistan, America? Did our Agni missile test was under pressure of United States? Did Parliament pass a resolution under pressure of America? What kind of things are talked in this country? I am surprised that we act under pressure from the United States. India is a sovereign country. It cannot work under pressure of any country, let me tell you. And I am not saying that today because we are in the government. Any government in this country can't function under pressure of any government. Ultimately, it is a country of 100 million people. It's not a joke that any country will dictate or decide.
Then the question comes, then what inspired you to be ready to talk to Pakistan?
Because we genuinely feel that we should talk to Pakistan. And we as a responsible country believe that the problem between Pakistan and India can be resolved bilaterally. And that is why we suggest Pakistan that you please stop this cross-border terrorism, because they have given this commitment not only to India, but they have given this commitment to international community.
But I think Mr. Digvijay Singh, what everyone's been trying to ask is that what really has changed in the last couple of months, because earlier also you're saying that you will not talk at all to Pakistan until they stop cross-border terrorism.
Yes,
is there a change? Is there another change?
Remains same.
So you're not talking to Pakistan?
When Prime Minister had gone to Srinagar, it was a place from where he wanted to communicate this message to Pakistan and to the people of Kashmir also, that we are genuinely in this dialogue process. The only suggestion which we had made to Pakistan was stop this cross-border terrorism, then only there will be
All
a
right, let's
conducive atmosphere.
let's assume that terrorist violence continues
No,
as it is
no,
doing right now. You will not touch Pakistan.
I'm sorry to agree with you, because now even the Pakistani leaders, the foreign minister Mr. Kashuri, the Prime Minister Jamil, they are talking in a different tone today. They are also eager to talk, and that is why he had phoned to Prime Minister.
So you're saying that
Pakistan
their
has-
assurances
Pakistan-
will be
Pakistan-
accepted by you.
I
Their
think-
assurances will be accepted by
We
you.
are, at least we are optimistic people.
I think
We believe
no,
that
the most important
Seema, in that case, the question then arises that if the assurances that are now being held out by Mr. Kasturi, Mr. Jamali, are good enough reason for India to talk to Pakistan, then why wasn't the same done when General Musharraf made similar sort of assurances a year ago?
Well, that's exactly the point that I was trying to make, is that if we had taken this position of talking to Pakistan and we had started the dialogue 2 years ago, recognizing the inevitability of the dialogue as we are, we would probably have been doing it from a far more sovereign position than we are now. Because in these 2 years since Agra, we have not been consistent in our positions. We have to take the word of the government that infiltration is up and infiltration is down. Whereas on the ground, we almost see a status quo.
I think the real question remains unanswered. There is no qualitative or quantitative change in the immediate recent past which would justify a reason for a change. The real issue is that although I personally and also the party I speak for, Congress, strongly welcomes the opening of talks. But the real issue is this opening of talks has come at the end of a consistent flip-flop flip. The government has been totally consistent in its inconsistency.
So you're saying it's a
Please
right
see-
policy they've
please
come to
see
now,
Kargil.
but they flip-flop to come
Please
to
see
it. That's what you're saying.
I'll just sum up.
Kargil,
One
Agra,
second.
Lahore, nobody knows who's talking in Kashmir, from Mr. Jetli to Mr. Dullab to Mr. Pant, then Salk, ceasefire, then cessation of ceasefire, then army on the border, then no talks, then talk. There are about 9 flip-flops I've counted on my finger in the space of 3 years.
But you're saying that they've now got it
Kashmir.
correct. You're saying
They've
they've now
got it
got it.
correct, but this flip-flop is extremely worrying for a
All right.
sensitive area
Before
like
I come to you,
Kashmir.
Mr. Nirupam, let me just try and get some views from the audience. Lots of hands up. The gentleman here.
Since Pakistan is acting as a spoiled child, which one is first warned, then threatened, and then punished, why isn't that after deploying all kind of diplomacy, we can go for a gunboat diplomacy?
Okay, call for gunboat diplomacy. Let me try and get some more views. The lady there in the very last row.
I'd like to begin my question by a quotation which I read somewhere. It said that people often go in for non-violence for weeks in order to bring about peace, and when non-violence fails, they say, oh well, non-violence has failed to bring about peace, and then they return to violence which has failed for centuries to bring about peace. Now we often cite Lahore bus trip and the Agra summit as examples as deterrents to initiating talks with Pakistan again. But I totally agree with Mr. Singhvi and Ms. Mustafa, who say that there is no other choice but to have talks, whether with preconditions of stopping cross-border terrorism or whether even with doing away with the precondition of stopping with cross-border terrorism. I mean, there is no guarantee that after talks, cross-border terrorism will stop. But what is the guarantee that it will not stop without talks? So
Okay, I
I'd
think
like the
that's an
panel to
excellent
comment
question.
on
You want to
that.
answer that? And what she's essentially saying is that even if cross-border terrorism hasn't stopped before you begin the talks, at least there's a chance that the talks might lead to some sort of cessation of violence.
Well, I don't agree with her, because what we have seen in last 10 years, that actually has formulated our policy today. Because the attempts in Agra and the attempts in Lahore were in that direction only what she is suggesting. Despite all these, we have taken this initiative, and we had gone to Lahore, we had invited him to General Musharraf to Agra, and both the time we failed. This time our steps are little bit cautious, that much I can say.
Okay, but Mr. Secretary, I think you'll pardon us if all of us are still somewhat confused as to what exactly the stand right now is. Are you saying that he must stop all cross-border terrorism, only then will you talk? Or are you saying that it's a
I don't
suggestion
know
that you
where is this confusion, because even in the parliament, when the Prime Minister has given his statement in parliament, he made it very categorically that you will have to stop this cross-border terrorism. There is no point in talking without stopping this cross-border terrorism. So I don't know from where you have taken this point that we are confused on
Because
this.
in the last,
No.
even in the course of the last 15 minutes, you've sort of indicated that it's not necessarily a precondition.
No,
Now it
where-
sounds as if you're saying it is a precondition.
No, you say it's a choosing of the words only. In a diplomacy, you have chosen so many words. Not like you that I am free to
one
say
thing
anything.
I would like to
What I am
remind-
trying to say, if cross-border terrorism is not stopped, then it is very difficult for us to talk.
All right.
Mr. Singh just told that Pakistan the foreign minister, and he was just quoting foreign minister and the president of Pakistan, that they are right now, they are very eager to have talk or have dialogue with India. I would like to remind him, Pakistan has been always eager to talk to India. If the deadlock prevails now, that is because of India's attitude. If you will not stop this kind of attitude or hawkish approach, we are not going to talk to you. So this is not new thing.
It appears that I have applauded the government for something the government doesn't intend to do. Because it appears, see, I think it's highly unrealistic to assume that Pakistan is going to come and say, look, I shall stop cross-border terrorism from tomorrow, or that I shall diminish it. Pakistan's acceptance or implied recognition of terrorism cross-border is not going to happen in the near future. If therefore the government says that we will not start talking unless cross-border terrorism stops, then clearly the decision is not to talk. We all understood the recent last few days to mean that there will be some kind of talk starting. And the reason it links with the other question is that this gunboat diplomacy, and as Indians we feel very strongly about terrorism, and we certainly, some of us do feel occasionally that something should be done by way of gunboat diplomacy. But we forget that we are the only two countries in the world, which are contiguous and both are nuclear powers. So in this case it will be nuclear diplomacy, not gunboat diplomacy.
I think
the Minister, Mr. Digvijay Singh started off by saying that it's a suggestion which is being made to Pakistan, but you agree with what Mr. Singhvi is saying, that what he's now saying rather forcefully pretty much says that, look, there's not going to be talks unless terrorism.
Yeah, you can't. I mean, there is no foolproof guarantees that you're going to get, that there's going to be no cross-border violence. Because after all, the Pakistanis have been claiming that the people who are indulging in violence are renegades and not really under their control, which might not be necessarily true, but that is at least a statement.
We are giving to that concession to Pakistan. We are, listen, we are also aware of the fact that there are militants inside the Kashmir who wants to sabotage this talk also. We are aware of that. We are aware of the fact that there are certain militants who are not in the hands of Pakistan. We are not saying that. What we are still saying, that we still know that the cross-border terrorism has been supported by Pakistan. The camps are there. They have come under the cover of the military. These are the points which we would like to tell Pakistan.
I just want to add to that, because it almost has begun to seem over the last 2 years that the government, and particularly the Prime Minister, seems to be struggling out of the whole, that kind of straitjacket he's been made to wear. And by going on saying about cross-border terrorism is not something you really believe in, but that you're catering to the hawks in your establishment and in the political parties, to the extremists, like Mr. Nirupam maybe, who, basically does not want talks until you keep putting those conditions.
Sanjay Nirupam, the extremist on the panel.
I don't think what I spoke is going to prove that I'm extremist. I won't talk. My party won't talk, but not on the PM level immediately. Why don't the government send foreign secretary to Islamabad or invite the foreign secretary from Pakistan?
Okay, let's go back to the people as it were. I'd like to get about 7 or 8 different viewpoints. It should be easy. There are lots of hands up. I'll start from here and then move back. You here.
Even if we agree with the government that we are not under any kind of pressure, are we ready to have a long-term policy or short-term policy, any kind of policy which is properly directed, well directed, to tackle the issues with Pakistan, all issues, not only Kashmir issue, Indus issue and the issue in Kutch region, all these things. Are we ready to have a direction?
All issues we have from policy. The gentleman
I just wanted to ask Digvijay Singh ji that what kind of signals are we sending to Pakistan by first calling them for talks and then test firing a missile the next day? Are we going more towards the gunboat diplomacy, or are we trying to force them into something? Are we trying to prove something?
Fine. The gentleman first row.
This past 2 years experience has not left any path for compromise. Then how just an overnight statement will give us any opportunity to make our statements, and at such a high level all different alterations are given and the suggestions are being made.
Okay, fine. The lady there in the yellow.
Every time we start the talk, India is the loser. Pakistan comes out with the stronger ideas and stronger after Kargil. Musharraf came up. I think there is definitely some big power is playing behind. India should make it clear to the big powers first that keep off, and then both the neighbors should sit and talk. If the big powers are always coming in, it's not possible.
All right, fine. Behind you, the gentleman in the yellow shirt.
Yes, I would like to raise that America has amply demonstrated that might is right through Iraq experiment. India has got may not have very superior conventional military strength, but we had a very sizable Indian Muslim population. That is our strength. Why Indian government is not making use of countering the Pakistani propaganda by using them effectively?
Okay, fine. The gentleman in the blue t-shirt.
Yeah, in my opinion, this Pakistan support to cross-border terrorism to internationalize the Kashmir issue. So they are not doing this for the want of sake of the talk. So how are we expecting that by talking to them or putting a condition of talk, they are going to stop the cross-border terrorism? There has to be different methods by which Pakistan should realize that cross-border terrorism is detrimental to them. So only by talking or not talking, we are not going to have anything.
Okay, on that note, let me come back to the panel. Do you agree with what he just said?
The three have said...
well, a number of views really, but I mean among the various views expressed was that do you think through talks or any other mechanism, how do you convince the government of Pakistan that all forms of terrorism or violence, so on and so forth, are detrimental to their interests?
I think the talk is the only solution. Let me put it in a very frank way. Those who are talking about that talk will not solve the problem, I am not for that. Even the government of India is not for that. Talk will the only solution of the problem. It is question of time. What we are suggesting to Pakistan, that our problems are the common problems. After all, why we have formed SARC? Why did we form SAPTA? Why we are talking to each other? Because we want to not only to improve the relations, but improve the better quality of the people also.
Right, let's now go to Anup Jairat, who is on the left-hand side, second row from the top.
Yeah, Pakistan has proposed to put the monitors from various countries to check the level of infiltration. So why India does not accept this proposal?
The proposal of putting monitors from a number of Islamic countries and so on and so forth on the line of control to check the levels of infiltration.
We are prepared to share with the Pakistan. We said let there be a joint patrolling between Pakistan and India.
But no
why there is
international
third party? No, not at all. Because we consider the matured country like India and Pakistan should resolve that problem by their own, not by third party intervention.
I think I would agree there. Our stated policy has been to keep it bilateral, and I think once you open a small can with this international monitors, you don't know where it will stop. So that I think is not wrong. But I think it's important to note that in diplomacy, it's the nitty-gritty, the hard work, the dirty hard work which matters. So sometimes the symbolism has to give way to the hard work. There's no reason why talks may start at a lower level, at a middle level, or at a above middle level, but not necessarily at the ministerial or the prime ministerial level. The bus ride or the symbolic gesture or the telephone conversation.
So essentially you're agreeing with what Sanjay Nirupam is saying.
Yes, that's where hard work is done, and that hard work should be continued. After all, Strobe Talbot and Jaswant Singh met for so many times with USA, that kind of a thing start between government officials of the two countries.
See, this point has been made before that instead of the grand gesture, the big high profile, much hype, Agra summit sort of a situation, you start off doing the real hard work behind the scenes, start all sorts of small discussions. That essentially is what both of them seem to be saying right now.
Yeah, I think so, but I think the Prime Minister has already indicated that. He says that the day they say that they give us the assurances, we'll send somebody, some official from the Foreign Office there, which is a clear indication that it's going to begin this time, unlike Agra, not at the top level, but at the Foreign Office level, and then they'll build themselves up to it.
No General Musharraf arriving with Digvijay Singh escorting him.
No, he can't because he doesn't even have a High Commissioner there. So you've got to first get the High Commissioner back.
I would like to respond the earlier question that talking and no talking, what is the use of it? And how can you curb the cross-border terrorism just to have a dialogue with Pakistan? I would like to remind the audience here, our Prime Minister when he was just opposition leader, or before that, after Shimla Pact, our Prime Minister has said in the Parliament, Hindustan, वार्ता की मेज पर हमेशा हारा. India has lost always in the talks. And युद्ध के मैदान में हमेशा जीता है. This was the statement, the famous statement of our Prime Minister when he was a member of Parliament in the Rajya Sabha. After that, on the boat in a meeting in the boat club, our Prime Minister, when he was not a Prime Minister, he said, "The goli ka jawab goli se denge, boli ka jawab boli." Now I think this should be the only policy of India. If you want to save our country and the people of this nation, I think this should be the only policy, the foreign policy, especially towards Pakistan.
Well, okay, Mr. Nirupam, one sec. To just translate for those who don't understand Hindi, boli ka boli, goli for goli, essentially
Boli ka
saying,
jawab boli means if you want to talk, I will talk.
bullets for bullets.
Bullets for
Now,
bullets.
if there are terrorists who are coming in and firing bullets, how do you respond to that? You
You
send
have
terrorists
to,
into Pakistan?
you have to fight with them. You have to
To
get
fight the terrorists, or you send terrorists into Pakistan? What is it that you're asking for?
That is, no, my leader, Mr. Balasaheb Thackeray has suggested, if they can have the Fidains, if they can send that the Atmaghati Daste, why can't we have? Why can't we send our Atmaghati Daste to Pakistan? I want to make it clear, this is not for the Muslims in India. The Muslims were confused. Oh, Shiv Sena just asked the Hindus to blast Muslims in India. No, this is not for the Muslims of India. This is for the Pakistan. If they can send the Atmaghati Daste to India, why can't we? This is just a proposal. But unfortunately...
Have you got any volunteers, Mr. Nirupam, for this plan of yours?
This is a very secret thing I won't like to reveal here in this program.
You mean to say it is something that you're seriously considering? Are you saying in public that it's something that you're seriously considering?
No, I don't want to accept anything here, because otherwise Mr. Digvijay Singh will just go out from here and I will be caught and put behind the bars.
Are you going to leave them?
That's the problem. Though these type of things cannot be discussed in the open forum.
But you just have discussed it in an open forum, so I suspect it's now subject to discussion.
I am unfortunately a little surprised at what he said and the reaction as well. I mean, we are not living in a primitive world, we are living today. I mean, what are you talking about? That you send in jathas from here across the border just because of the jingoism and the kind of hatred that is being spread about a neighboring country? Or are you going to act like civilized human beings with a whole civilization
We are acting like...
All right, one thing, I'll give the audience a chance. I'll give the audience a chance.
Can I just... Yeah.
I'll give you a chance right now. Okay, who is it who wants to speak? The gentleman there in the court.
I will say in Ramcharitmanas mein Tulsidas ne kaha bhay bin hoy na preet.
Right. Well,
we need to create a terror in the mind of Pakistan to put them into talking terms. This is the urgent need of the time.
All right. Now the gentleman behind you in the court.
So, since 47 we are talking. What is the use of that? I am a defense personnel, and every day you are looking in newspapers. Every day, so many defense personnel are losing their life. Yes. Why can't we take a proper decision and attack Pakistan and preach them? Why can't we take such a decision?
Right. The lady there in the yellow.
My question is very simple one. I would like to ask that we say that if we talk with its neighbors and we can solve certain issues that are consistent for so long. So I would just like to ask, if that is the case, why we haven't found any solution yet? Why?
Okay, fine. Gentleman there. Yes, you.
Yeah, myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Singh, my question is, we are testing the missiles every day, Agni, Prithvi, all we have tested. And Pakistan is defeating us every day, whether it is parliament attack, whether it is Jammu Kashmir attack, whatever it is. What is the use of those missiles? Can you just tell me? Or we are just waiting for the expiry date of those missiles?
All right, Mr. Raj Gopal, who's a social worker in the center. Mr. Raj Gopal.
Is government taking firm steps to resolve the permanent conflict with Pakistan? Because my son is posted in major in border. I know we have passed hit during night time. I would like to know what you are going to take. You know, we had difficulties. After the de-escalation, my landmines are not being removed. And when they are getting floated, there are people, most of the army officers are dying.
Right.
You try to bring out some solution with Pakistan, with conflict or something like that. That is, Jawans are dying every day.
Yes. All right. Some really emotional question there. I mean, it really pretty much sums up what a lot of people feel very strongly about. We've had other suggestions also. I'm not sure how practical they are, but in a sense, this again throws back the entire question that there is a move to somehow or the other resolve this 50-year-long animosity with Pakistan. How is it that how is the government planning to do it?
That is exactly what I have said earlier. That government of India is prepared to talk to Pakistan, despite the very strong opinion which I have seen, and as my friend Sanjay Nirupam has said, I fully agree with Seema Mustafa that we are in a civilized society. We can't speak that language which he is speaking. And I have very high regard for Sanjay Nirupam. I thought he will come down to a search of
only
problems.
we are,
specific- one second, Mr.
excuse me, only we are living in civilized society. Mr. George W. Bush, the whole US, that country, the people of that
Mr.
country are
Nirupam,
not civilized.
Mr.
That's
Nirupam,
why
one
they
second.
attacked Iraq.
Mr. Nirupam, 1 second. I want to bring us back to what the gentleman just said. He has a son.
We are always told, we are always taught by the people like Seema Mustafa that look, we are a civilized society, we should not behave like this.
Right.
But for last
Mr.
50
Nirupam-
years we are living like this.
Are you going
Right,
to leave
Mr.
the
Nirupam,
Jatha?
1 second. Mr. Nirupam, 1 second.
Of course.
We've had a gentleman.
If for my nation it is needed, I'll go.
Yeah, but I
I'll
think,
lead the Jatha, I'll go to Pakistan, I'll kill them. You'll have to take this kind of spirit. Otherwise you can't live. You know, for last 5 months, in last 5 months in Mumbai, 5 bomb blasts has taken place. Almost more than 50 people have died. A
Right,
terrorist
Mr.
camp has been found in
All right, we've just had.
suburb of Mumbai.
All right, Mr. Nirupam, you've just on air said that you're willing to become a suicide bomber
I would
and a
love to
terrorist.
be. I would love to go there.
Give him a
This
visa.
kind of spirit should be now.
I think
All
we
right.
are.
I still think I would still like to come back to what the gentleman
say
there
something on that.
said just a short while back. He has a son who's on the border, who's talking about the landmines which India had put into place this last year at the height of the standoff. Soldiers are trying to clear them. Soldiers are dying while doing it. Isn't this part of the problems of what Mr. Singhvi said is a flip-flop policy? How do you answer him? How do you answer him? How do you tell him his son is
Let
safe?
me reply Mr. Singhvi first. This terrorism problem is not today. This has been continuing since last 15 years. And people are dying not today. People are dying with this problem since last 15 years. And
Okay.
Mr. Singhvi had been in power for a longer time than us. We are trying to resolve this problem.
Okay.
Within 5 years we have attempted twice. Now third time also Mr. Prime Minister had given this offer to Pakistan. And
All
not
right.
only from
But-
Srinagar.
All right, Mr. Rajgopal.
Not able to solve the problem for last 56 years.
That's what I'm saying.
Thousands of Jawans are dying every day.
Yes,
And
not
because
thousands
widows
of Jawans
become
every day.
widows.
So are civilians.
I think we.
Innocent people are
If
dying,
there's a
not
will,
only Jawans.
Sir,
Even innocent people are dying. That is what we are saying. That even the innocent people who have nothing to do, they are dying.
Then
whether
you-
they are in
you-
temples,
know,
whether they are in
my
market,
simple
whether
question,
they
you allow them to come
Okay,
to
one
Pakistan.
second. Let me. I mean, I think again, see, man. Let's just come to you on this note. I mean, if we are seeing some sort of very extreme sort of reactions. We have Sanjay Nirupam here says he wants to become a suicide bomber and go and bomb people in Pakistan. We have people in the audience who are saying that let's attack Pakistan and finish them off once and for all. Now, a lot of this is coming from the years of terrorism, but are these really realistic solutions? And it's all very well to say that India should be like America and go in and bomb Pakistan like America did to Iraq. There is a difference, isn't there, in the military strength of the two countries, and also Pakistan does have nukes.
I think it's also a little to do with that. It's a case of double standards. I mean, you have a parliament resolution which condemned or criticized, or whatever word you want to use, the American aggression on Iraq as something that was just not acceptable in today's world. And then you have another reaction coming out saying, justifying a similar attack on Pakistan by a country which is much bigger. No, just let me finish before you get into your Jatha and suicide attack. But the point is that, you know, this kind of jingoism which we are now churning out, and the media is also responsible, political parties like his are also responsible, we are not thinking anymore. We are trying now to say things which do not belong to today's time. We are not civilized human beings. We are not talking in a civilized fashion. How do you cross the border? What do you do? They have nuclear bombs as well. They have nuclear bombs as well. So you want a nuclear war in today's world? Do you think it will remain a conventional war?
All right, 1 second. A gentleman there.
You
A
are not
gentleman
dying.
there.
The people in Kashmir are dying.
No, we are dying.
All right, 1 second. Let me go. We do have a member in the audience here who is from Kashmir, Mr. Shafaqat Majud, is a student from Kashmir. He's on the right-hand side, second row from the top. Let me come to you.
Some are saying that the time is not right for the talks. Don't they realize that the people are daily killed in Kashmir? They are being affected by the terrorist attacks and the brutality of Indian army. So how can you make a delay in the peace talk?
Don't you realize that the people are daily killed in Kashmir?
Okay, fine. I think on that particular note, we're going to take a break. We'll come back and try and take up the question that he said. We'll also try and take some emails that we haven't had got from Pakistan. That will be in just a couple of minutes after this break. Let's also tell you, you can keep sending us your emails to qti@bbc.co.uk. Do send us your emails, what you think of all that you've heard on this program. We'll try and take your emails as soon as we can. Stay with us. Welcome back to Question Time India. We've had a rather vociferous, rather heated first round. We've had the audience wanting everything from war to immediate peace and immediate talks. We've had a member of the panel saying he wants to become a suicide bomber. Let's try and just take a couple of emails that we've actually got, including an email which we've just received from Pakistan. The email has come from Mr. Malik Farooq, who's from Pakistan. He says, I'm a Pakistani living in Bahrain. Here, we, the Pakistanis and the Indians, live peacefully. Why can't we live in our own countries equally peacefully? For God's sake, stop talking only and start doing something. My request to the politicians on both sides of the border is to stop fooling the innocent people with hollow slogans. I have a concrete suggestion. No more bloodshed. Both the countries should accept the line of control as an international boundary and should live peacefully across it. Mr. Digvijay Singh.
Except one line, the last line. Rest of whatever my friend from Bahrain has said, I totally agree with him. There is no time for bloodshed. But as far as the Kashmir is concerned, as you are aware, that we have accepted the Kashmir is our integral part of this country. So we cannot say that this side is yours, that side is yours. Kashmir is India's territory. So there is no debate on that.
What this email caller is talking about is obviously the ideal situation. And unfortunately, it's too idealistic. It's not workable. But coming back to what's been happening earlier in the panel, I want to say this, that I don't believe that there is any morality in realpolitik. In realpolitik, we all must have the greatest selfish self-interest of our nation at heart, no doubt about it. I, for one, wouldn't want to talk about civilized, decent. If we can do something good, we might do it. But my point is that Suicide Squad, Fidayeen Squad, Indo-Pak war, going across the border, Rambo situations, these are all nice for raising the rabble, for having the jingoistic feeling, for perhaps getting vote for parties like Sanjay Nirupam. But they are absolutely and totally unrealistic. He knows it, everybody else knows it here. It feels good. As an Indian, I feel no less outraged when people die in Kashmir every day. But you are, by going across the border in this manner, you are going to increase the number of deaths, you are going to have a nuclear war, you are not going to diminish the cross-terrorism, cross-border terrorism by 1%. Even in Bangladesh, when this happened, it was because there was a huge festering sore within Bangladesh. And it was Bangladesh fighting a war of independence, which we assisted. But the situation today in Pakistan is so different that any talk of this Rambo-like situation, of course, if we can do any covert operations in an organized fashion, after all, every country has its RAW, has its IB.
Right.
Nobody objects to that. And I am sure, without giving up any secrets, every government knows that covert operations take place. But anything which in the nature of what Mr. Nirupam is saying is very good for getting votes, for promoting his party's stated brand image, but doesn't get us anywhere near a solution.
Right. But Mr. Nirupam, is it just rabble-rousing and playing to the galleries? Or do you seriously believe some of what you said?
See, when our government announced the ceasefire, Shiv Sena was the only party which opposed it. And we said this ceasefire on the occasion of Ramadan is just impractical and illogical. Finally, they withdrew the ceasefire. Lahore bus, we were the only party. We spoke at that time. We told at that time that Lahore bus is just impractical approach. Agra talk, impractical approach. Again, if you are going to talk, it is going to be impractical. Okay. So just talking and no action, it is illogical. There is no intention just to get vote while we speak like this.
I think we are looking at really two streams here. We are looking at one stream which is very functional in the country here also and across also. Like I was telling Mr. Nirupam, his counterpart in Pakistan would be Maulana Fazlur Rahman.
That's
now,
why I told you. In Pakistan, everybody is Maulana Fazlur Rahman.
No, that's another attitude. But what I'm trying to say is that two streams. One that build these high walls around us and put us inside, and we close our ears, we close our eyes and we don't listen to the voices from the rest of the world. Today there's an extremely strong peace movement. I mean, if America was defeated at all or had to think at all, was because the people of the entire world came out in tremendous peace movements and said that they do not want war, they are not going to tolerate war, they are not going to tolerate nuclear conflict or conventional war. And I think that same applies to India. And if we live in that little cocoon that some hard voiced people are raising for us or are making for us, then we are going to be very, very strongly defeated and go back.
All right, let me come back to the audience.
We are going to be defeated by whom?
By ourselves.
Ask the panelists.
By ourselves.
We talk
if
about
people like you are in India, we are going to be defeated by ourselves only.
Well, 1 second. Let's come back to the audience.
Lady here. How can Pakistan defeat?
Mr. Nirupam, 1 second. Mr. Nirupam, 1
We have a
second.
1.5%
Mr. Nirupam,
Pakistani military.
Mr. Nirupam, 1
We should
second.
leave
The
it
lady
here.
here. The lady here.
I want to ask the panelists that we talk about diplomacy, we talk about talks, we talk about giving lectures to each other, but have we really thought about the innocent people who are dying every day on the borders? Every family is losing their loved ones every day. What about them? Does any government, any politician really think about them?
All right, fine. Let me just try and take a, I know this has been a very vociferous audience, some members more vociferous than the others, so let's try and resort to some sort of hand-level diplomacy. He had an email from Pakistan, a gentleman saying it's time to bury 50 years of animosity. Let's try and put all this behind us and move ahead to peace. How many of you would back whatever the government does? How many of you, in other words, strongly feel that the time has come to somehow try and have peace with Pakistan? How many of you feel that? 1 second. That's about 30%. How many of you feel that Pakistan is not going to change? We have to take a really tough line with Pakistan. All right. Fine. A clear majority want a tough line, hard line with Pakistan. The gentleman here is trying to explain why.
I want to say something.
Please
To
sit down,
whom you
friends,
want us
continue.
to talk to? For several years, who is the government in Pakistan? The gun band on the back? Maybe the government is thinking all the time, who is the right person to talk to? We have Muslims more than the Pakistan here. We live peacefully. Like what you talk about the peace, we look peace. We are living in peace. I'm working with a Muslim for 25 years. We are all like brothers. Maybe next time I may take birth in Muslim family. Doesn't mean, don't give these excuses. It's a Gundism, terrorism which is across the border, which is troubling us, the country throughout. Our economy, our peace, our everything. Why not we take action harsh immediately to crush it for our future?
All right, fine. We'll take another break at this point. We'll try and come back then after that. Let's take a look at some of the other issues. It's not just been India, Pakistan, Kashmir. There have been lots of other issues also this week. We'll try and look at some of those other topics in a couple of minutes after this break. But once again, let's remind you, you can keep sending us your emails, your comments, your opinions and suggestions to qti@bbc.co.uk. We'll be back in a couple of minutes. Welcome back. Well, we've got an email from Bharatram Gaba from Mumbai in India. I suspect it's aimed a little at Mr. Sanjay Nirupam. It says, I want to make a suggestion to the Shiv Sena. Instead of wasting your and our time on needless rabble-rousing, why don't you do something for the city that will make it more livable? It seems that you are running out of issues, so you've raised the sons of soil bogey once again. First it was the South Indians and the Gujaratis and the Muslims, now it's the UPites. In case you haven't noticed, industry and business is already slowly moving out of the city due to the costs of staying here. Could you please now take up other constructive things to do about Mumbai instead of using our new roads to transport us back into the Middle Ages?
In Mumbai, we have just launched Me Mumbaikar campaign. This campaign is for the welfare of Mumbai citizens. It is not just for the son of soil. It is for those people, whoever it is, whatever language he has got, whatever religion he has got. If he lives in Mumbai, he loves Mumbai, he shares the sorrows and the happiness of the Mumbai. We are talking about them and we are thinking about their own welfare. So Shiv Sena just started thinking about Mumbai's people, Mumbai's citizens. So we are not against anybody else, whoever is living in Mumbai.
Abhishek Singhvi?
Well, clearly, historically, the origin, the genesis of the Shiv Sena is based on a particular theme, a particular catchphrase, and in whatever way, they ultimately have to come back to that. They are, of course, doing the Me Mumbaikar campaign, but don't forget the Me Mumbaikar campaign had its origins several decades ago, only in those who were the Bhumiputra Sons of Soil concept of Bombay. Now that, I think, militates not only against the national integral view of India, but it also militates against the Indian constitution, which gives every citizen equal rights over this country.
Seema?
Yeah, I think it's very clear. I agree totally with what he's saying. And I think the Shiv Sena has a certain ideology which has been sort of manifested itself over the last years. And it's very, very visible, as the writer has said.
Okay, Mr. Vikram Ahuja now, the journalism student in the center on the left-hand side.
So my question is it fair to penalize pilots for refusing to fly to SARS regions? After all, with the number of cases of SARS in India, it's increasing to a double digits. So isn't the situation alarming?
Okay, Digvijay Singh.
Well, on one hand, was just listening from this audience that how patriotic they are prepared to go and they are prepared to die. Now the SARS pilots are behaving in a different fashion. If the pilots from all over the world are going to these countries, even our own Indian Airlines pilots are going to those particular countries, I don't find any reason why our Air India pilots are refusing to do that.
Okay,
This is one issue on which I must agree.
1 second, please.
This is one issue on which I must agree wholeheartedly. If anything, the action against the pilots has been less than severe and should have been more drastic. They are one of the most pampered lot in terms of perks and salaries. There is no business when in the whole world is flying not to fly, and that also one guild, IPG, of 200 pilots alone. This is nothing but blackmail.
Even I agree with the fact that the pilots in India, they are earning 9 lakh rupees every month. That is their salary, official salary. So pilots have no business to go for the strike and stop the Air India.
So no personal plans to lead perhaps a Jatha to try and clean up SARS in some parts of the world?
No.
All right.
Agreed. I think it's very unfortunate, and I agree totally that they're extremely pampered, and the way they have sort of hijacked the entire international airlines is rather regrettable.
Okay, the lady at the very last row.
Why aviation minister is not able to convince the pilots that more than them, doctors and nurses who are in direct contact with SARS patients, shall them they out?
Right. If doctors and nurses can do it, why can't the pilots? Well, the gentleman here, second row.
Actually, I wanted to raise this issue here, but very few of us in the audience, I'm a doctor, very few of us really know what SARS is really about. And I think that this entire issue has just been given fire by the media, because the entire information about SARS is coming from the media. So if today Vikram Chandra was to sneeze here, we all know he's well travelled. What would all of us do? We'd all run out of this studio out here. This is because the government has not bothered to educate the public properly about what is SARS and what precautions one is to take.
Okay, I'll try very hard not to sneeze right now. The gentleman there.
Yeah, I mean, veering back to the main issue which the panel had put up regarding Mumbai and Shiv Sena's attitude.
But we've actually gone on to SARS now, sir. Do you have a question related to SARS?
Okay. The issue on SARS has, as rightly mentioned by the doctor here, it's been hyped and blown out of proportion. There was a case which has been highlighted by the media regarding a patient in AMRI Apollo in Calcutta, and the reaction of the people, there was panic, there were hospitals which refused to take him in, the family refused to take him in. There is no national response plan which is visible to the common citizen as to what the do's and don'ts are, unlike in Hong Kong and Singapore where it's much more severe. But there's been a realistic step taken. We would like to address the minister and find out what we've got.
Okay, a couple of very, very important points you made. First of all, this entire stigmatization that we are now seeing of SARS patients, it's clearly not always a fatal disease, but the sort of reactions that people are getting, do you think has been whipped up too much? And do we have a response plan?
I believe the government of India has prepared a response plan. And as you have correctly said that so far in India, the 10 or 11 patients, the number who have come to this country, are well cured, I believe. The patient who had come to Ram Manohar Lohia hospital has been released. The patient who had come to other hospitals have been released. So there is no, in that sense there is no panic.
Do you think the media has whipped up unnecessary hype over
I think so. I think the media has made it a big story. It is there, of course, because the media is trying to find out what is being done and what it isn't. And as like somebody pointed out, the government apathy and the failure to inform has also created a vacuum which the media is trying to now fill from all kinds of sources. So there is that unfortunate thing that's happening, and also, of course, the public and social reaction against SARS victims, like we saw in Pune, where there were, you know, the entire colony. But I think the government has to really get its act together and, you know, bring out more information on this issue.
Well, let's hope the government does that very well. I'd like to thank all members of the panel for joining us and the members of the audience as well. I'm afraid we are completely out of time on this particular episode of Question Time India. Thank you all so much for joining us. Goodbye.